me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Tuesday, May 30th, 2023, with the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow. Shout out to Ben Cohen behind the glass today for the ECSI Media Group. So much to talk about. Of course, I was backstage picking Julian's brain already. The world is ending. My backdrop, high above courtside. A dismal showing by the Green yesterday. Some want to say hats off to forcing a Game 7. Some want to say it never should have got to a Game 7. My thoughts are probably not like most. I've been in the Brown camp for a long time. I personally think it's going to be a tough summer for Brad and the Green, how to figure this out and piece this together. 9-4 lead the Celtics had, if my memory serves me correct, and they ended up with 15 points. And I think they cut it to 7 at one point. Derek White kind of tried to take the game over. It wasn't enough. Hats off to the Heat. Go through the Bucks. Actually go through the play-in games, lose the first game, win the second game, down late in the fourth to the Bulls, pull that one out, walk through the Bucks, walk through the Knicks, and for the first 3 games, walk through the Celtics. But so much to talk about. Let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Julian Edlow.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Jules. How are you?
I'm all right.
How the night after? I don't know how you slept. You wake up this morning. Unfortunately, we were hoping to get ready for a Game 1 at the Garden against Denver. We would have been slight favorites. Instead, the Heat win, board a plane, and I assume are in Denver now, getting ready for a series where no one expects them to win again. So talk about Game 7, talk about the series, talk about the Celtics. The floor is yours.
For Game 7, I think a lot of things just went wrong. Part of it's bad luck. Tatum rolling his ankle on the first play of the game is bad luck. You had some bad luck. But, I mean, you're the better team and you're at home. We keep saying they're the better team. They lost the series. I think everybody knows from the prices of the games they are the better team. The better team loses series sometimes. So the Tatum issue was bad luck. I would have, ankles are tough. I would have liked to see him grind through it a little more, be more effective. But a series of decisions led to this. The Celtics were still up early in a rock fight. I thought the decision to, after Brogdon didn't score for 3 games and then sat a game, and then in Game 7 you decided to make him your 6th man. He was the first man off the bench very early, came in for 7 minutes and was a -15 on the plus minus and never saw the floor again. I think the decision to go to him early by Mazzulla was awful. But Rob Williams was in and out of the locker room 3 times, played 8 minutes. So there's only so many other guys off the bench. Grant Williams is the only other guy in the rotation. So limited options and Tatum dinged up made things very tough on them early. But yeah, I thought, the decision to go to Brogdon was a very bad decision by Mazzulla. But the overall effort, like the Celtics weren't going to win that game. Derek White's the only player that had a decent game, and he even started off missing plenty of shots. So it was a brutal effort. The inconsistencies have been who this team is. I don't know why they have to be, a 5-6 team at home in the postseason. But it comes down to the things, that used to be in the NBA that aren't there as much now. The mental toughness, things of that nature. I don't know why they tighten up at home but can play on the road. That's something they need to figure out. But yeah, game 7 was lost pretty early, and they made the best run they could, but it obviously wasn't close to enough. Thoughts on the series? You probably shouldn't have a game 7. You could have won game 1 at home. They let that one go with whatever that was, 46-point third quarter. Could have won game 2 at home. You were up 11 with 11 minutes left, and let that one go. So win either of those games, and you win it in 6. If you still get that play from White, I don't think they get that play if they don't need to win that game, because that's who this team is. They have to need to win to make a play, and eventually that caught up to them. But just in terms of the numbers, I put this on Twitter. The Celtics were like 4-1 to 5-1 to sweep this series, and it was a popular bet. So when they were down 3-0, they were plus 700, 750 to win the series. Miami, if you just rolled over the money line to win games 1, 2, and 3, was a little more than 47-1. So the Celtics to come out of the 3-0 hole was like 6 times more likely, roughly, than the Heat even getting up 3-0 to begin with. So allowing that to happen was your season. It's not, you could have had the comeback. It was still 7-1, which is, long odds to have it. You could have had it, but that's why it doesn't happen. All it takes is one dud, one game of bad luck along the way. Now, the chain of events it happened in, they got 3 in a row, and then they got the dud at the end. But that's why you don't give that room. You should have won games 1 and 2, and been done with this series in 5 or 6 games. So they should have been done with Philly in 5 or 6 games, and they dug it out. This time, a more mentally tough team, a team that's been there, a team that wanted revenge for last year. It didn't work, and it was bound to catch up with them at some point. That amazing elimination game record that this team had, it was bound to catch up to them at some point, and it did.
Yeah, they talked about, 0-150 or 150-0, coming back from 3-0. And again, I think, don't quote me, that they were the only team to have the home court, meaning game 7 at their place.
They were. So, that's why, you say it's kind of a different situation. They were the better team. They had the home floor. And that's why, they had the chance that they had. It was a much different situation than all those other ones in history that you can point to.
Yeah, and going back in the series, losing the first 2 at home, and then going back to game 3 that, they just mailed it in. They quit. They were down 30, and it was just a lackluster, it almost to the point where the season was over there. And then, of course, Missoula's going to get fired. Nick Nurse is just waiting, and, for the Celtics to get swept or lose in 5 and then come in and say, hey, guys, I'm right here. I'm your guy. It's almost like, knowing the ending, you kind of wish they did get swept. You kind of wish maybe they lost in 5, because I think that would have made the summer maybe a little more drastic. I think in my thought process is Missoula stays. Wick's not going to, just cut him a check, cut him loose for $10 million. We have Brown supposedly for 1 more year. Everyone now, get rid of Brown, get rid of Smart, yada, yada, yada. There's just so many question marks now. Julian, if you were Brad Stevens for the day or the week or the summer and had to assess this moving forward, what is your initial thoughts?
Well, there's what I would do and there's what I think Brad Stevens would do. I would be a little more open to moving on at coach, because not as much because of how Missoula coached, but because of how he got the job. You're lying if you say your intention was for him to be the head coach of the Celtics. So I would be willing to move on. They're not going to move on. Brad Stevens, Missoula was the one carryover when Stevens went from the bench up to the front office. Missoula carried over from Brad Stevens' staff, and then Stevens selected him ahead of guys like a Damon Stoudemire to be the head coach after the Udoka situation. Missoula is Brad Stevens' guy, and he has a lot of faith in him, and he will keep him. He could certainly use some veteran presence on the bench, but I don't think it needs to be one of these like high-profile head coaches necessarily. I think it needs to be more of a former player that can light a fire under your Tatums and your Browns that don't seem to have that, passion or that drive that other teams like that. I saw the comparison to the 89-90 Bulls being made on Twitter. I think it was Bill Barnwell, ESPN, and Pippen are similarly aged to Brown and Tatum after that 89-90 season when they lost in 7 games in a blowout in Detroit to the Pistons, and then came over the hump next year and won it all. Now, Tatum and Brown aren't Jordan and Pippen, obviously, first of all, but the NBA is much more wide open. The Celtics had a clear path this year. There's no dominant teams. That, first of all, I think is what made it different. Like, those teams had to get through elite teams. This team hasn't. It's kind of open at the moment. And if you watched The Last Dance, this is what I'm talking about, mindset. They need somebody with a mindset. I think they need to bring in, they're going to shift some role players around. They need a PJ Tucker type of, Draymond Green type of player or two on this team. Dare I even say somebody that, because I know this guy's available, Dylan Brooks, who really hurt himself this past season, but would shake things up. So give me that type of attitude on this team with a couple players and as an assistant coach. Like, I don't know the name. This is something Brad Stevens needs to figure out, but like somebody that guys are going to listen to, like a Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett's not going to take an assistant coaching job with the Celtics, but I'm just saying somebody of that mindset. And that would command that respect from guys like Tatum and Brown. But if you watch The Last Dance, and again, I'm not comparing this at all to the late 80s, early 90 Bulls. I just saw this floating around on Twitter and it was getting a lot of responses. The day after the Bulls lost that game 7, they were in the gym. They all canceled their vacations and worked out all summer. Jordan added like 15 pounds of muscle because the Pistons were beating the hell out of him. Not that that's what's happening now in the NBA, but just like, that comparison to Brown would be, hey, I'm in the gym today working on my ball handling. I'm doing 8 hours of ball handling drills today. And I don't think they have that drive. I don't know if a loss like this will give it to them. Things can change, but until they have that drive to win and be the best and, stop being so lackadaisical, that's what's going to make this team frustrating in my mind.
I'm an 80s baby, meaning Bird, and, I get yelled and screamed at, let it go, Jeff, let it go. Listen, I enjoyed the 80s basketball. I enjoyed the Jordans. I enjoyed those Pistons. The transgression to, Kobe. Okay. The LeBron era, today's game. No, I looked up there. I was there Thursday like you. I saw the banners. I get chills looking at those banners, bleed green, Celtics pride, unfinished business for 18 is just PR, because as you just stated, you're 100% correct. Larry would have picked up his ball and he'd already be working today. He'd be working on whatever was the reason they lost. I say this tongue in cheek, but I believe it. Today's NBA divas, shoe deals, record deals, movie deals, 2K ratings. It's not like the old days. So that's a great comparison. That is a great comparison. And that drive is not there. And the makeup, especially of this team, it's not there. There is no Kevin Garnett. There is no someone to, Draymond Green would be the guy. He would be the guy. Come in and he would shake things up. I'd like to say Al Horford is, but I think he is in his own way, very quiet, very mellow. And if we're going to now break the dynamic duo up at some point and build around Tatum, let me ask you, is Tatum that guy?
He can be. He just needs I don't want to say personality change. That's what I was going to say, but like a driving force of some kind. He definitely has the ability to be the guy, and maybe we'll find out if Brown stays or goes. Again, I know you love to ask me that question, and whether it be my opinion or what I think they're going to do, or I don't know. I think a lot of the times I've said I need to. If I was Brad Stevens, I would sit down with Jaylen Brown, ask him his intentions, ask him what he wants. And when I had that feel for it, I would have a better idea of what to do. So, like, regardless of that, and Brown and Tatum say the right things, that they value each other and want to play together, maybe we will find out if the Celtics do move on from Jaylen Brown that it was the best thing for Tatum. Maybe he needs to be more like a Jimmy Butler surrounded by role players. Like the guys they have are good, better in theory than the rest of the Heat players. And whatever you get for Brown is just better pieces to build around the team. Maybe it works better for Tatum that way. But the short answer to the question is, yeah, Tatum should absolutely be able to be the guy. But if you look at the recent winners in the NBA, so like let's go back to, really all of them. So you have the Warriors string of wins. Kawhi sneaks in there and gets one, and he's a guy that I think people kind of put in that mindset of like he's a great winner. He hasn't been on the floor a lot. You got a LeBron one mixed in with the Warriors ones in Cleveland. Then you get a LeBron one in the bubble. Then you get a Giannis-led team, who, again, not an American-made AAU. You're talking about the shoe deals and the whatnot. So a little bit different of a mindset. And then you get the Warriors again, beating the Celtics. And now you have a Jimmy Butler, a second-round pick that kind of made himself a different way, more mentally tough, against Jokic, another Giannis type of international player that didn't come up with any of these, accolades. So we still haven't seen, as much as we say, the NBA has changed, we still haven't seen like a weak-minded team like the Celtics really break through to get one. It's still going to be either LeBron-led teams or international star-led teams or somebody like a Jimmy Butler, who I don't even know. I guess Kawhi would be the closest comp because he was like a back end of the lottery that people kind of slept on and turned into a superstar. But Jimmy Butler's even, more slept on as in terms of where he came from. So we still haven't had one of these, flashy teams that doesn't have the mental toughness come through to win it, even with how kind of soft as a whole we can say the NBA is.
Spent 20 minutes on it. We could spend another hour and 20 minutes. I obviously know you have bigger and better things to do at some point today. I saw this morning on VSiN, the exactors, Denver to beat the Heat pre-flop in the tournament before the playoffs started was 97-1, something like that. And the Heat to beat Denver in the finals was like 197-1 or something stupid like that. Heat now travel to Denver, tip off on Thursday. I'm thinking how Julian thinks immediately. Denver double results, you call it, or something. Denver to win game one and Denver to win the series is. Do you have that price? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's out the window. I think it's like minus 250, minus 300
to win game one and the series.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you right now, but Denver's a massive favorite here. You've seen the series prices, right? We got some places as high as minus 480.
Geez, deja vu.
Yeah, I mean, Miami does it every time. So let me series right now is minus 400 for Denver on DraftKings. If you want to buy it down, well, Jokic minus 360 for series MVP saves you 40 cents. Let's see. There's the series spread. Like, if you think Denver can win it in 5, you're getting plus 140. But is anybody going to not give the Heat a couple of games at this point after everything they've done? Denver minus 1.5 games. Denver to get it done in 6 is minus 150. That's probably the way to play Denver if you like them. I would say Denver series minus 1.5 because the double result is DraftKings actually has the best price if you like it. I'll give them that because I've seen a lot worse. It's minus 205. Denver to win game one in the series.
Have you tried to put a Denver to win the series with a Jokic MVP parlay in? It's still got to be minus a bazillion too, right?
I don't even think you can do that. I don't think they'll allow you to do that. The only thing that I've given thought to so far in this series, the Heat are probably going to be mispriced again on these games. Like, they're 8.5-point dogs in game one, so you know you're going to get steep prices on them again all series. Game one's a tough spot. Like, I know some of it you carry a game 7 momentum, and Denver hasn't played forever, so you can go with the momentum, versus rust argument. I got to go the other way here after like that type of series being up 3-0, it going to a game 7 and giving everything you had to give to win that series as Miami. Now you got to fly out to Denver, go on the road again. They're 38-4 at home with Jokic. The first thing that caught my eye was just laying the 4.5 first half with Denver. Because Miami battles back in these games. That's what they did in games 1 and 2 in Boston. Like, they could come in and tighten it up. And you look at Denver, their first 2 games of the West Final against the Lakers, they gave away large leads. The Lakers covered the 5.5, 6.5 in both of those first games, even though Denver won. So I don't know if I'm ready to go with an 8.5 spread in game 1 of the NBA Finals, but minus 4.5 for the Nuggets in the first half feels to me like the Heat kind of show up after a long series. You're at the elevation, and Denver's probably, even though Miami's the experienced team, Denver's probably ready for that moment, hyped around the home crowd. And they play well at home, unlike the Celtics. They play well at home, so you can kind of trust them more. I think if I'm given one play on the series, I'll have more once I look at it, but one play on the series, I think Denver minus 4.5 first half of game 1. They should get off to a good start. Jokic should dominate Bam. So that this could be another one of those first quarters where Jokic goes for like 10 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists.
It's kind of, you think about this out loud too, Jules, is you got an all Florida final. I mean, you got the Panthers in the cup and you
all
got
Florida final, thanks to both Florida 8 seeds winning game 7s in Boston.
Exactly. We gave them all the momentum. Thank you. Let's go over to Gillette for a second. Patriots, not a lot of talk going on over there. Any slight hope, just slight, that they would be kicking the tires with D-Hop, or is that train long, long gone?
I think it's too expensive for them. And also I know like Hopkins likes Belichick, but Does he really want to play with Mac Jones? I forget the odds. I saw the odds. Buffalo was a heavy favorite, right?
Yeah.
Kansas City could make sense. Like he's probably going to go play with a quarterback and somewhere that he's. Why wouldn't he give himself a chance to win? Like he's been on Houston and Arizona for his career. He's made some playoff appearances, but like those aren't franchises that win Super Bowls. Like he's probably going to go somewhere he can win a Super Bowl, which isn't New England. But yeah, any of those teams that you see on the odds board that are favored to get him are both good fits and scary landing spots.
Have you dove in? It's been a week. Have you dove into any? I know with the Celtics going on and stuff, and your work with Scal and the crew over at what is it, MSNBC? Have you taken any more swings at opening week at any over-unders or anything like that in the NFL market right now?
No, mostly division stuff. No win totals for me yet. I have not played anything week one. I feel like that. I mean, it's everybody thinks this, but I feel like that opening Thursday game in Kansas City should go over. I think, what is it, 53.5, 54? You're looking at like a third. They're saying a 30-24 type of Kansas City victory. The Lions offense was much worse outside a lot of the time, I will say. That's the only thing that would scare me off. But like I do think that game offensively lives up to the hype. And if, that should be more than 30-24 if that's the type of score that they're projecting. But other than that, not much for me yet, NFL week one. But I have a month before I'm off for a little bit, and we'll get some stuff out for that, for college football. And then I'm doing a little bit of MLB as well. There's some markets that I'm taking a liking to for MLB.
And that is?
I think there's a little bit of value to, and these aren't widely available. DraftKings does have both of these markets. You can find them a few places, but DraftKings has both of them. Pitcher to record a win and pitcher outs recorded. I just think they're markets that they're new and the price hasn't really caught up or found the appropriate level yet. So for example, I've been toying with them, so I haven't put any out. I put 2 out today, but like over the weekend, the Astros were in like the -275 to -325 range, all of those games against the A's. But their pitchers were between -140 and +120 to record wins. Now, you look at pitchers, no, they don't record wins every time out that their team actually wins the game. But when it's against the A's, your pitcher has a higher chance of recording the win than in their regular games. They're probably going to get their 5, 6, 7 innings and probably going to win those innings and be in position to win. So they did. Those pitchers all recorded wins in those 3 games. So it's just a way better, a way to buy down massive favorites, assuming that your starting pitcher does its job. So those have stuck out to me. And then in terms of the outs, I just think sometimes the odds makers are afraid to set the amount of outs too low for bad pitchers because it can look so low. So again, I went to, and these are going to be extreme matchups when I play these, but I think his name is James Caprillion, right? On Oakland. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right.
No, Caprillion, you're right.
Caprillion. Okay. He's awful. He's got like a 10 ERA. He's a dumpster fire. He's pitching against Houston. His outs over under was 17.5. So for him to go over, that's 18 outs. That's 6 innings against Houston. Before that start, he had gone over 6 innings once on the season. So now you're telling me he's going to face the Astros lineup and have a well above average game? So, it was like a minus 150 under. So it's juice. But if you're telling me he's stayed under it in like whatever it was, 7 of his 8 starts, and he's playing a well above average lineup, that should be minus 250. So he went 5, which is farther than I thought, and gave up like 7 or 8 runs, whatever it was. He was awful. Maybe it was 6, but that seemed like there was just no chance that he would, get through 6 innings. So I think that there's some value to the pitcher outs recorded.
And something that I preach every week about, just for everyone to keep their eyes open. And listen, I know for a fact no one was running to the window. I know for a fact I did not release it yesterday either, but it's the Sunday night ESPN travel team. And that again on Sunday, Atlanta put a whooping on brain cramp on the Phillies. And then they traveled to lonely Oakland, where, again, potentially the worst team in the history of mankind, getting ready to jump to Vegas. And the Braves are like minus 280, 300, whatever the number was. And yet here comes Oakland with an outright win, which was just so comical there.
So I will say that's one of the spots today you would expect Atlanta to bounce back, right?
Correct.
So the Braves, but they're hard to play. The Braves are minus. Where are we? Oh man, I'm on to Wednesday.
260.
The Braves are minus 250. Minus 250 on DraftKings, and even minus 140 on the run line. So Bryce Elder, decent pitcher. You now go to pitcher props to record a win. This is one of the ones I put out. Bryce Elder is plus 125 to get the win on a minus 250 favorite.
I like where you're at. Geez, you sound like me I love that thought process. You get a minus 250. How do we get in there? Well, if you do the first 5 minus the hook, there's still going to be minus 140, 150. If you do the full game minus the run and a half, well, you're going to hope the bullpen holds on to a 2, 3, 4 run lead. I like it.
Just seems like all the ways that you would win those other bets, the first 5, the run line, the money line, like most of the time, the way that you're going to beat the A's is your starting pitcher just has a good game. And then you hold on to the lead. So it just feels like a good price for those. You can't do it. You need to make sure you're doing it with the right pitcher. It needs to be a guy that goes 5+ innings consistently. But when you have that guy, better price.
Last question. College football. We're getting closer. Again, Thursday's June 1st. A couple months, and then we'll be into August here. Any more work? Anything pop in your eyes? Or again, just sifting through the madness? Any futures in your pocket or something you're starting to lean towards?
Well, LSU and Washington are the 2 teams that I've backed so far, win total and futures wise, and we'll see what they are. I will be going against Alabama, who's a team that I back often. I will be going against Alabama plenty this year because the notion just seems to be that, as always, this team is going to reload and be the Alabama team that's a contender all the time. But that team last year was really bad, and they were kind of, like we're seeing with Belichick and the Patriots, kind of coming undone. A lot of silly mistakes, a lot of flags, a lot of penalties. And now you lose like the best quarterback in college football, and you lose the first defensive player taken in the draft in Will Anderson. So your best player on both sides of the ball is gone. I don't know how they're going to replace what they lost, particularly the quarterback play. So if you take away Bryce Young's quarterback play from an already 9-3 Alabama team, what does it become? And I think that's kind of what we're going to see it become this year. So I have Alabama does play all their toughest games at home. Like there's no
Mm-hmm.
big road game to fade them in. But I think that some teams can come into Tuscaloosa and give them a real run. So Texas almost beat them last year. I played Texas +7 on a look ahead at Alabama. LSU did beat them last year, so it'll be a revenge spot at home for Alabama. But it was a revenge spot for them at home against A&M this year, and they barely won that game. So LSU +7.5 at Alabama. I like that too. So I'll be going against my squad this year and fading Alabama. Plenty of games, it looks like.
Any promos for the listeners, people watching? We got a lot of people watching and listening today, either today, tomorrow, for this weekend, the NHL, the NBA finals. You see anything or get us ready for maybe the start of those?
Well, we did just talk MLB, so there is a 50% MLB profit boost going on today. So if you're going to play one of those pitcher wins or something, you're already getting plus money. A 50% profit boost on there. Now you're really onto something. Let's see. I'll say this: if I know that we're getting into a lot more, if you're a sports card guy, collectibles person, we're going to be doing more breaks in the DraftKings marketplace. My co-host on Unreasonable Odds, Steve Buchanan, I know he's going to be involved in that. I think we're opening some like 86 Fleer, looking for Jordan rookies. We got that going on if you look in the promos. And let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like Stanley Cup or NBA Finals promos are up yet, but obviously you know where to click. They'll be there.
The crawler's been going the whole time, Julian. Please, everyone watching and listen, if you have not, run over to Twitter. Go follow Julian at Julian Edlow at DraftKings. Find all his work at DK Sportsbook, at DK Live. Go check out his podcast at Unreasonable Odd Podcast. Sean Alvarez says good morning, and he is all in on the card breaks. I know Sean's a big card collector.
There you go, Sean.
Jules, have a great week. Thank you so much. Sorry I missed you on Thursday at Hurricanes. I know you had work to do. So best of luck this week, and we'll catch you next Tuesday, same time.
All right, cool. Thanks, Jeff.
Take care, Julian. The one and only Julian Edlow at Julian Edlow at DraftKings at DK Sportsbook. If you don't have a state that you can legally wager on DraftKings, you still can download the app. It's got a million things. It's like a kid in a candy store. So you can at least download it and follow along. If you are in a state that, you can wager on DraftKings, I highly recommend it. If there's a market that you don't see or there's something that you are interested in potentially wagering on, reach out to Julian at Julian Edlow. Say, hey, Julian, I caught you on the ECSI show with Jeff. I'm interested to know if, and he'll reach up to his hierarchies, and he usually can get something pushed through. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everyone watching and listening. Big show today. Later on this afternoon, myself and Riley, 4:30, 5 o'clock, should be doing a closing bell. Also at 7 o'clock, the return of Scotty Webb. Took a week off. We should be back with some MLB talk. And around 1:30, either today or tomorrow, I'll have it on my timeline. The one and only Pop DiBiase from LA will be talking some LA sports. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, Julian, who has left the building, at Julian Edlow, we thank you all for joining in this morning. Everyone have a great morning, and we will see you soon.